the world falls apart not because bad people did things, but because good people did nothing.
Yeah. It's just hard to see what you can do sometimes. Like, it's like, what is as a 23-year-old living in California, what can I realistically do? Welcome, everyone, to Trevor Talks Too Much, the show where I put my gift of gab to the test, and no topic is off limits. I'm your host, Trevor Everts, master baker, mythical soft boy, and firm believer that a space-age love song by Flock of Seagulls is the greatest song of all time to roller skate to.
Ooh.
Listen to that song and tell me that that isn't just the greatest song to put on a pair of skates and just glide around a roller rink. I dare you. Today, I spoke with Joel Stein, who is really cool and funny. And he didn't specifically request me to say this. Very handsome. He's a handsome man. But he's a best-selling author. He's a former writer, columnist for Time magazine. He's written in so many huge publications all over the U.S. He's just a really smart, funny guy. And we had a great time. We talked about all sorts of stuff. We talked about masculinity, because he wrote a book on it. We talked about the differences between the generations, as he's a Gen X and I'm a Gen Z, and that was fun to get into. One thing we did talk about, but I don't think it was before we started recording, we talked about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And I'm so sad that I didn't get to talk about it on the show, because I wanted to see the look on his face when I told him that my go-to Dungeons and Dragons character that I've used for so long is a bard named Surreal Neil Diamond.
Oh.
Surreal Neil. Okay.
My God. Forever.
Jamie, I'm going to explain the mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons to you here briefly. So there are things.
How do you know I don't already know?
You don't.
I don't.
There are things in Dungeons so you can cast spells, obviously. But there are different levels of spells. And with higher level spells, there's a thing called spell slots. Mm-hmm. So you can only cast a certain number of spells before you take a rest. That resets your spell slots, because if you could just cast certain spells over and over, it'd be overpowered. So it's like, when you're going on your adventures, you've only got these certain spells that you can cast a certain number of times, and the different levels have a different number of spell slots. But there are spells called cantrips. Cantrips are spells that you can cast as many times as you want all the time, but they're usually weaker spells. But for bards, there's a cantrip called Vicious Mockery. Vicious Mockery is my favorite spell in all of Dungeons and Dragons, because the whole idea of the spell is that you're just slinging insults at someone, and you're slinging these insults, and it makes them take damage, and then also puts them at disadvantage. So when I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons and I am piloting Surreal Neil Diamond the Bard, I love it, because every time we get into combat, I just get to drop the gnarliest roasts on whoever we're fighting, and they just get so mad that they take damage, and then they're at disadvantage. And it's just funny because, when you're role-playing, I actually have to come up with insults, so then I could just be fighting like a goblin, and then I just have to drop some gnarly insult, like, your mother is a That wasn't
That's gnarly.
That was gnarly. Here's the thing. I'm not in character right now as Surreal Neil Diamond. If I was, I would have come up with a better insult.
Yeah, you have to be in character.
But that was the best that I could come up with as Trevor Everts.
I feel like Joel would like that spell.
That's why I wanted to talk to him about it, because apparently he played D&D like back in the 80s, and I wanted to get into it. I wanted to see what kind of character, because I believe you can tell a lot about a person based on what kind of character they play in Dungeons and Dragons. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he was also a bard enjoyer, because here's the thing. People that play bards in Dungeons and Dragons are the coolest.
Okay. Are you saying that just because you also
No, I'm saying that because it's a bona fide fact that people that play bards are the coolest. They've got the most swag, and they everyone loves them.
What do you think I would play as?
You seem kind of like a ranger. I feel like you maybe run ranger, or maybe you could be like a good cleric.
Okay.
Yeah. You're a very supportive person.
Yes. Thank you.
Clerics generally, they are very good at supporting their party with spells that heal them and give them advantages and boost their damage, stuff like that. Ranger, because I don't know, you just also seem like you're very I feel like you have a good moral compass. Rangers generally are like, people with good moral compasses, and they do a lot of good, and they're pretty bad. They're pretty kick.
Ah, cool. I've always wanted to play, just never had like a group.
Yeah.
That I could.
Well, here's the thing. What you got to do is you got to find more friends that are losers, and then the likelihood that they play Dungeons and Dragons becomes increasingly higher. Because all my friends are nerds and gamers, and I don't think you have enough nerdy gamer friends.
No, I don't.
Yeah, because I'm probably your only real nerdy gamer friend.
I mean, my brother's my friend, and he's like a nerdy gamer, but in a different way than you, I think.
Can you please stop talking about video games for 2 seconds so we can get into the show? I swear, it's like every day we come in here and we're trying to get into the show, and then Jamie's just rambling on and on about video games and gamer things. And it's crazy how much I just have to keep her in line so that we can actually get to the main portion of the show.
Never get to have any fun here. Just kidding. We should get into Joel, though.
Today on the show, I have Joel Stein, who is a very, very good... There was a word in my head that I was going to say.
Handsome.
Handsome was the word.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the one.
Usually 3 varies, but I'll take 2. Yeah.
No, Joel is an author. You've done columns for Time magazine. You've written just about everywhere, I think.
No one listening to this is going to know what Time magazine is.
No, they know.
Really?
Yeah, right. I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's well known enough that
people
know.
remember the past, right? Like if I said Life magazine or
Yeah.
or
I think people have seen enough TV shows.
Right. No, Time is that's all the Man of the Year thing. Person of the Year.
Yeah.
The Person of the Year cover is
Person of the Year, yeah.
Is still a reference point.
Definitely. And you see it a lot in definitely TV shows from the early 2000s where it'll just be a copy laying on a table enough that it's referenced enough that people know what it is. But anyway,
yes.
You're a writer. Where have you written? Because you've written lots of places.
I was at Time magazine for not exclusively, but I was basically there for 20 years writing articles plus this first person column.
Yeah.
Humor column. I had a gig writing a column for the Los Angeles Times for a few years. There was a year where I wrote the back page of Entertainment Weekly.
Okay.
These were all periods when Time magazine got rid of my column and I had to find somewhere else to run them.
Yeah.
I started out at Time out in New York, but I've written for anyone who will pay me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I think that's a sensible way to make money and also do something that you enjoy.
Yeah. I haven't found a better way.
So Joel and I met because you tweeted something about asking if there was anyone that could help you out with what the word simping means and to explain to you what simping is. And then my boss, Josh, who you said you're a fan of.
He's the one who suggested you.
He replied to your tweet and tagged me in it. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he replied to your tweet and tagged me and was like Trevor's your guy. So then I replied joking because I don't know, when I first saw the tweet I was like, yeah, I'll reply, but I didn't actually think that you were going to ask me and then later that day I was on a call with you and we talked for 30 minutes about what simping means.
Yeah.
Which was lovely. And then after the 30 minutes I was like, I want to have you on my show.
Oh, you're
very
very sweet.
So that's how we met and now you're here in front of a microphone, in person.
Who's going to simp who? Whom?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll
That's
find out.
To be determined, I think.
It was one of my better pieces.
Did you paint me in a good light, or did I look like a buffoon?
Oh, wow. So I never answer that question for people because what I've learned, even since I wrote articles in college, is I'd write something that I thought was really kind of harsh or picking on someone.
Yeah.
And they'd love it. And then I'd write something that was really positive about someone. I once wrote a piece about Zach Braff when that, what was that movie about New Jersey? Garden State.
Yeah.
Came out. And I love that movie. I'm from New Jersey. I had a great time with him. I wrote a really positive profile, but I had one line about him, I don't know, being a cocky bastard or something. And he got so furious.
No.
Yeah, so I just never know if people like what I just can't predict.
I would be pretty happy if you called me a cocky bastard.
I did not call you a cocky bastard in the piece.
Probably called me I talked to this dumb idiot kid about this dumb idiot word that shouldn't exist and is really stupid. And here's what he told me.
No, the whole piece was how Web3 crypto familiar are you?
Not.
Okay. So you don't know what DAOs are. Okay.
I've heard the term.
Okay.
Don't know what it means though.
So a DAO is basically a way to create like a corporation where there's no one in charge and everyone can just vote and buy share. You know, you basically buy shares and all that. So this woman, Irene Zhao, created Irene DAO for people to simp her, but they could own the simping.
Oh.
So I talked to Irene and I bought, and so in order to do this, you have to buy into the DAO, but you do that by buying an NFT of Irene Zhao.
Okay.
So I had to like buy this NFT and now I can vote on what the DAO does. But anyway, it's all about simping and it was all insane. And that's what I was calling you about.
That just sounds like OnlyFans with extra steps.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, with no nudity.
well then
yeah.
what's the point?
Yeah. I think financial somehow, like so in other words, like when I was a kid, there was still like Tiger Beat magazine.
Yeah.
So if you could like make money by being a fan of Kirk Cameron, that's what this concept is.
Wait. That's I should do that.
Yeah.
I want people to invest in me to show how big of a fan they are.
Yes.
That sounds
And then
great.
they can buy and sell their fandom to others.
No,
yeah.
but I'd like them to buy it, give me money, and then I take all the money. Is that what a rug pull is?
The rug pull is rug pull is much simpler. Rug pull is when I know so much about Web3 right now. The rug pull is when you basically start a little project.
Yeah.
And then you promise something and you run away with the money instead.
Yeah, no, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's the plan.
That's what I want to do.
That's a classic plan. That's basically like Ben Affleck Boiler Room. That's always been a good plan. That's Ponzi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to be like at the starter of a Ponzi scheme, I think that's what I really missed out on with this whole crypto thing and NFT thing. Is like
100% disagree.
I think it's the dumbest thing ever, but it would be kind of nice to just make a ton of money by just lying to people.
No. Oh my God. I thought about it when Madoff happened. The stress of that seems, I mean, I guess if you're like a Trumpian figure and you like live off of conflict and that just fuels you, but I know from listening to you and your struggles with anxiety and depression.
Never do that.
No, it just sounds like the most stressful, horrifying. I wouldn't want a day of that.
Joel just said, you seem way too depressed to take advantage of people.
Oh yeah, I listened to your episode on depression.
Really?
So that episode seems so Gen Z to me.
Yeah.
Which was not because, so Gen Z seems so nice and careful and kind. And I love that. And really open and interested in mental health.
Yeah.
And demands that from their workplace, that they acknowledge that. And that's wonderful. The 10% that I'm not as down with was the caution which you talked about it.
Yeah.
It was not just that you were the fact that you are addressing this and acknowledging it, I thought was, and kind about it. Every time you said something, you were like, I know this might affect these people. Or, that was wonderful. But when you actually talked about what you were going through, it was so cautious. It was like Gen X was so blunt and aggressive with, with that
I
stuff.
think that caution comes from like inside myself, though. I think it was just something that I hadn't talked about openly before, even in my own personal circles. Like, I'm really bad about talking about how I feel to like even my friends. And so for me to get up here in front of a mic and then blast this on the internet to whoever wanted to hear, I think for me that was like a very weird thing to do and a very difficult thing to do. So I don't think it was caution out of like I'm worried that someone is going to take it the wrong way, but more of like me feeling like I don't even know how to say these things because I don't talk about these things.
No, that's what it felt like. But so you're saying maybe like by the time you got to write your Prozac Nation, you'd have talked about this enough times where you could talk more openly and bluntly about some of the stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I think it would take more therapy,
Yeah.
which I'm working on.
Did you go to therapy?
Yeah.
How was it?
It was great. It was, it was, she was older. She was very experienced, it seemed like she knew what she was doing. It was nice because she like definitely made me feel very comfortable. And like when I was talking, she just let me talk. And then I would get to a point where like I didn't know what to say and she would prompt me with questions. Because I didn't know, I'd never been to therapy, or I hadn't been to therapy since I was like a junior in high school, and I didn't want to go. That wasn't like a willing thing. So when I was at therapy in high school, I kind of just didn't say anything. But I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know if this is going to be like a question and answer thing, if she's going to want to ask me questions. But she was really great and seemed very knowledgeable, and she gave me some like actionable things to do throughout the next week. So I have another appointment next week. And she like gave me, here's the things that I want you to do. I got some therapy homework. But yeah, and then there were some things like, because I talked about how I have a very negative self-image, and she was like, it makes sense that like because the way that brains work, and once you do something for a long enough time, your brain does it automatically. Like the neurons fire. It's like when you have a job for a long time. Like when I was working at a bakery in LA,
Was it Dominique Ansel? Or?
Yeah. So I was making croissants every day, and I would make hundreds of croissants. And it got to the point where I'd done it so many times that my brain just turned off. Like I would just sit there and I would listen to music or a podcast or whatever, an audiobook, and like my hands were making croissants, but I wasn't focused on what I was doing. Like I'd just done it so often that it became this thing. And our brains do the same thing with the way that we think about ourselves. So when I've spent so much of my life having a negative self-image, my brain is automatically going to do that whenever it can. And apparently to break that, you have to actively do something that you're not comfortable with or don't know how to do, so that you're forcing your brain to be focused on, instead of like being in that like kind of zone where you don't have to think about what you're doing. You're forcing your brain to think about what it's doing in order to break those neural transmitters from
Like,
just.
so what do you have to do? Like jump out of a plane or something, or what?
No, she said, is there any like hobby that you want to
Oh.
pick up, like, or something that you've wanted to do that you're not familiar with? So I got back into playing guitar.
I was going to say it has to be an
yeah.
instrument, right? Because that takes full
Yeah,
concentration.
and I used to play the mandolin in high school.
Oh man, between that and the Dungeons and Dragons,
Yeah,
you must
pretty
have
big
been
loser.
raking it in with the chicks.
Oh, you better believe I was.
Wow! Thank God you learned to bake. It was your only way out.
I wonder why they thought I was gay in high school.
Oh yeah.
I wonder why. Who knows? It was funny because in high school, everyone, like, the people would spread rumors about me being gay, but then they'd also spread rumors about all of the girls that I was hooking up with.
Oh, interesting.
They couldn't pick one. Like, I would hear people talk about, like, oh, did you do this with this girl? And then I'd be like, no. And then also I'd hear rumors about me being gay. And I was like, I don't get it. Can you just pick one?
You know what? It makes sense to me. You're a handsome man.
Oh, thank you.
But in that, you're not a ruggedly handsome man. You are
No.
like in that Leonardo DiCaprio way where it's like girls really like that.
Yeah.
Because especially girls, I use that instead of women, but women like it too. But girls at that age it's kind of like a pretty non-threatening
Yeah.
handsomeness.
Yeah, like I belong in a boy band.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you
I would
could
listen
totally
to that
be in a
band.
boy band.
You'd be playing your mandolin.
I wish I was in a boy band. Oh,
You'd be
my
covering whatever Zeppelin songs are about Gollum and the evil one. Yeah.
God. Being in high school when One Direction was at its peak was like so hard for me because I was like, I could do that. I could be in a boy
Right.
band. That would be the greatest gig ever. Oh my God. Having someone else write the most generic songs, like generic love songs
Yes.
ever, and all you have to do is like get up on stage and dance and sing and make millions and
Can you
millions of
dance?
dollars. No.
Okay.
Okay. No. I used to be pretty good at swing dancing.
You
Oh,
did swing
hey.
dancing?
Yeah, I actually used to do swing dancing in high school. I completely forgot about that. When you grow up in Idaho and you go to a small private Christian school, you got to find ways to have fun.
What
and
flavor
fill your
Christian?
time. It was a non-denominational.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like Presbyterian. Is that a
That is one.
denomination?
That wouldn't
Yeah.
be the one in Idaho,
Mhm.
probably. Yeah.
Joel, you wrote this book that I have here,
I wrote that a while ago.
Man-made. Yeah, because
10
how
years ago?
old is your son now?
He had his bar mitzvah a couple weekends ago.
Wait, what age is the bar mitzvah?
13. That
13,
didn't come up in
okay.
the Idaho Christian school all the time?
No.
Okay.
I knew it was around that age.
you know.
I didn't have a bar mitzvah. So where did you come up with the name Laszlo?
My wife and I, had settled on Levi. I'd
Okay.
written a column about how to name your son. So there are professional like consultants you can hire.
Okay.
So they taught me some useful stuff. It was basically about, I'm going to screw this up with dactyls, like all that Shakespearean things. Basically,
Yeah.
you want like some kind of iambic.
Yeah.
I'm using all the wrong terms, but you want stressed, unstressed, stressed,
Yeah.
unstressed. So like my name sucks. Like Joel Stein
Yeah.
is like, it's just an attack. Attack on Christianity.
Yeah.
And then
they need it.
so we knew we were stuck with Stein, so we wanted like a 2-syllable stressed, unstressed.
Okay.
So we were set on Levi, and then we were watching a movie, Breathless. And there's a part of Breathless where he signs in, is that the name of the movie? Where he signs into a hotel and he uses the name Laszlo Kovacs, which is actually the name of the cinematographer on the movie.
Okay.
And my wife was like, Laszlo. And she's like, too many people are going to be named Levi.
Yeah.
So then we went with Laszlo.
I
We were wrong about
love
Levi.
I love the name Laszlo because have you seen What We Do in the Shadows?
Well, yes, because my son's a little pissed off about it because he
Laszlo Cravensworth,
yeah,
the greatest,
yeah,
one of the greatest characters in
yes.
television.
Yeah, he's furious about
Oh
this.
my God, I would kill to be named Laszlo Cravensworth. I mean, obviously your son's name is Laszlo Cravensworth, but when I was reading the book
Yeah.
and the name Laszlo, all I could think about was, I'm in the mood for some sexual intercourse, and just his
That's
whole
pretty good.
character.
Yeah.
His whole character is just Matt. I love Matt Berry. I think he's one of the funniest people ever.
I let people vote online on 4 names before, when my wife was pregnant.
Yeah.
They had a Time magazine poll, and Laszlo came in dead last. But she went for it anyway.
I love it. I think it's great. If only because I love what we do in the shadows.
Yep. Yeah.
So if you had another son, would you name him Nandor, the Relentless?
Is this the kind of son I have like on the sly with the different woman and I don't tell anyone about? Or is this just like with my wife?
With your wife?
No, I would not.
On the sly?
For sure.
Okay. Good. I'll take it. No, so I've been reading this book. I started reading it, I don't know, probably earlier this week.
Very nice.
But I love it because you have put into words like everything that I've felt in my life about not being like the stereotypical manly man. And I think it's great. So this book, for everyone out there that I'm holding up, and if you're listening to the audio version, you can't see it, but it's called Man-Made. And essentially, the reason you wrote it is because you found out you were going to have a baby boy, and you had this like existential crisis about the fact that you weren't manly enough to raise a son.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would, and my wife comes from heartier stock than me, so
Yeah.
the odds were. Although my dad's pretty masculine in a lot of ways. Yeah, I just figured I couldn't handle raising a boy, and I kind of freaked out. And I didn't have the vocabulary that like the trans movement has given me about gender.
Yeah.
So like I had a vague, because like honestly, before the trans movement, it was very hard to separate gender from sexuality.
Yeah.
So like even when you were talking about being in high school and people thought you were gay, like there was no way to like talk about a gender spectrum versus like a sexuality spectrum.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel particularly gay at all, but I didn't feel nearly as manly as other guys.
Yeah, no. I mean, my dad was like, see, here's the thing about my dad. He's like this weird hybrid because my dad owns a cigar lounge.
They're all weird hybrids. Every man you meet in that book is not the manly man. They all have hybrid nature. I'm sorry, but your dad owns a cigar store?
But yeah, he like owns a cigar lounge. He's like a huge like Scotch guy, like has an unreal Scotch collection. But he's also like totally not a manly man. Like he plays poker, but he used to hunt and camp a little bit when he was younger, but now he's like, he refuses to go. Like he would not sleep in a tent. He does not want to go do anything like that. He's very pampered and he loves like, all of his extremities and amenities and stuff. So like growing up,
his arms and legs, or what is he?
Like all of his like things, the things around him that make his life easier,
Yeah.
But yeah, and so like when I was growing up, he didn't force me to do anything I didn't want to do. He wasn't like, you have to play sports. You got to play basketball. You got to do stuff like that. And growing up, he was never like, he didn't raise me to be like, you have to be like a man, He was never like that. And so I grew up not doing that and not really caring. And I've never been insecure in my masculinity, which is probably why a lot of people in high school thought I was gay. But it was so fun to read this book and just like see you go around to all these people who you assumed were like, these are the manliest men that I can find and I want to spend a day with them. And there was a part that I bookmarked not well. It was like just a sticker, I think, that I bookmarked it with.
That's the manliest way to bookmark a book. Was it a puffy or like a scratch and sniff?
Do you want to see the sticker that I bookmarked it with?
I don't even understand that sticker.
I don't either. We buy a lot of weird on eBay.
Who's the we?
Like our department.
Okay.
Like the culinary department, we buy a lot of stuff on eBay.
That seems like an important part of the job.
And sometimes it's like candy that you can't find in grocery stores, stuff like that.
Oh,
and then
okay.
eBay sellers will sometimes like give us extra gifts because they're like, thank you for buying from us. And so one of them was just a ton of stickers. So that's one of the stickers.
Wow. Proud to have that in my book.
This might not even be the right bookmark. No, it's not. Hold on. I'm going to find it.
Here's the thing. There's not a bad page.
No, there's
so
not.
So it doesn't matter.
I haven't read a bad page yet. And it's so funny. I don't know that I've ever like read a book and like genuinely laughed out loud while I was reading it. You're an amazing author.
Wow, thank you.
I really enjoy
reading.
I
came.
Did it happen?
What?
Were you soft resetting?
It did. Sorry, my brain shuts off every once in a while.
Wait, what?
I just
We call it a
I'll start
soft
talking
reset.
about something and then I just like lose the words and it takes me a few seconds to get back.
But
to
are
what I
you
was saying.
thinking about something else, or what happens in those times?
I don't know.
But like, are you just like, are you desperately searching for a word? Or are you thinking about something entirely different, or just not thinking?
No, I just like blacked out for a few seconds.
What do you mean blacked out?
Like my brain just turned off.
But what does that feel? What does it look like in your eyes, or what does it feel like in your head?
I don't know. I just kind of like zoned out. I'm not like looking at anything specific. It was kind of just I see everything and then like there's no thoughts.
Interesting. It
Now,
presents like narcolepsy.
sure.
So you just like,
I think it's like if I
I'm trying to
lose
do it.
if I lose a thought in my head, sometimes like
Uh-huh.
I'll be trying to say something and then I'll lose the thought in my head and then like my brain doesn't know how to catch up, so it just kind of stops for a few seconds.
and then how does it reboot, or what happens?
Usually Jamie says something and then
But how long would you have gone if no one said anything?
another few seconds maybe.
Okay, and then what? And then you pop back in, and for you, time has not gone on.
No, time's gone on. I mean, are we here right now?
This is
You care about
fascinating.
my brain farts? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of things wrong with my brain.
No, I didn't mean it like that. It was just interesting. It wasn't.
No, but I think there are lots of things wrong with my brain.
Do you really? Like,
My psychologist said she thinks I might have bipolar too.
oh.
That was what she thinks I might have.
Do you have like truly manic episodes where you don't remember things you've done and like?
Well, that's the thing about bipolar 2 is
Two.
yeah.
Oh, that's a sequel.
yeah, there's actually 4. There's a whole cycle. I think is what it's called.
Oh. And does one cycle through them, or one just has one?
No, so bipolar 1 is like you said, like these very like manic episodes, and then you'll have these kind of little depressive lows. But bipolar 2 is the opposite, where you have like some like slightly manic episodes, whatever. You'll have these moments of kind of manic, but the depressive lows are these really big depressive lows. So it's just kind of the opposite.
Oh, I had thought, and I don't know much about this at all. I thought most people who are bipolar have occasional manic episodes, but often have much more of their life is spent in the depressive mode.
Yeah, I don't know too much
Okay, I don't
about it.
either.
But I just started researching it because she said she thought I might have it. But yeah, basically what she said is, yeah, you'll have like these kind of little, because I think she kind of explained it as like you kind of go along in your life in this straight line, and then people with bipolar 1 will have these like manic highs, like these manic episodes, and then they'll come down and they'll go into like a small depressive swing, and then like there's whatever period of like normalcy goes on, and then it'll happen again. Bipolar 2, she said, is more like you'll have like a little bit of a manic episode or kind of that feeling of mania, and then you'll have these very big depressive swings that last longer.
And when you were told this, was that scary or a relief, or how did, I mean, not that you've been diagnosed or anything, but just how did the potential of this diagnosis feel?
No, I mean, it made sense
Okay.
based on the fact that like up until probably like last Thursday, the month before last Thursday was probably like one of the worst months of my life
Yeah, you
from
said
a
that.
mental health state. Yeah, I just felt like this giant hole that I was in for like a month. So, but another thing she says, it doesn't necessarily, usually, because she said she thinks I don't have major depressive disorder, because usually with major depressive disorder, you can kind of point to something that's triggered an episode, or there's something that happens that causes it. But with me, it's like I could just wake up one day and be like, this is the worst day of my life for no reason. Like nothing happened, everything's fine. And then like I just wake up one day and it's like,
And are you lucid enough to be frustrated by that, or you just are in it and you feel it and there's no?
yeah, I think I'm lucid enough to be frustrated by it. It is annoying. I've definitely had that thought before. It's like, I just wish I knew what was wrong so that I could fix it and it wasn't just happening for no reason. But I also do have like pretty severe memory loss, like associated with those like depressive episodes. Like I have a terrible memory when it comes to things that kind of happen in those low swings.
There's so many like truly creative, brilliant people who've had I mean, you know this.
Yeah, I mean, Robin Williams is like
Robin
one
Williams.
of my heroes. Like
Yeah.
growing up, I loved Robin Williams.
And apparently the nicest. Everyone
Yeah.
I know who's worked with them, just the nicest guy.
Yeah,
Um,
and just to think that someone that like brought that much joy to people could be going through that, like who seemed and presented as like one of the funniest and happiest people ever, and then could be going through that like behind the scenes. It definitely like makes sense.
Yeah.
Not to compare myself to Robin Williams, but like I get that. I think this is something I've been thinking about since I, had the session, was like I feel like I tend to channel the more manic energy into my job and what I do.
Sure.
Like when I go and I shoot a video with Josh or do whatever, do this show, like I tend to take all of the energy that I have and the manic energy that comes with that and I push it into work
Yeah,
because
it's the
that makes me
acceptable
seem
version. I mean,
super happy and
yeah.
excited. And then that leaves me in the moments when I'm at home or not at work to just be in this like hole of just like I feel like I have no energy and I feel like just a husk and there's no emotions inside me. So I could see for like if that was what Robin Williams struggled with, or like I could see how he would make these things like where he comes across as this very happy and fun and funny person,
But manic.
Clearly, and
manic,
then to go when he's not doing that in his personal life to just be in just a hole. So
Oh, it's funny. I'm sure you're right. I'd always thought of it as like the opposite. That when you're in a manic state, you are, thanks to all that energy, you just want to create stuff.
Yeah.
So you're either painting or performing or whatever it is, and then when I thought of it less of a choice to channel energy and more just like when you're like this, you want to do this, and when you're not feeling that, you don't do that.
yeah, that was because when she asked me to research it, I was like, I don't feel like I have manic episodes. Like when I was reading through like what it is, I was like, I don't feel like I really do that. I don't have these spurts of like super high energy and stuff like that. And then I was like, actually, that's probably not true. I think I just channel that in a different way.
And they're maybe not as extreme as some of the cases you were reading where people have
yeah,
several day manic episodes where they like,
yeah, just
don't
spend
sleep
a ton
and
of
sleep
money,
around.
don't sleep.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have that, but I was going to ask her about this next week. Actually, I was going to be like, do you think that I could be taking that kind of energy and just funneling it into my job? Because there's definitely times when I'm doing a cooking video with Josh that I feel like I'm going insane, where I'm just like,
Wow.
I feel like a psycho. like
you're not in control.
Like I'm just
Yeah.
doing crazy things. I'm super high energy and I'm like losing my mind, like whatever. So yeah, definitely something I'm going to talk to her about. But
Well, on one hand, like, congratulations for like finding a great vehicle for that.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
I bet most people don't.
Yeah, no, it is nice to know that the energy that I have, what would be considered probably as a negative
Right.
part of like what's going on in my
wouldn't
head.
go well in the bakery.
Yeah, no. It's nice to have that outlet
Yeah.
to make something hopefully funny. I haven't even read this piece of paper, Jamie.
You're fine. You don't need to. You guys are fluidly talking.
What's it? So that's the goal?
No, every guest I have on, Jamie will write like a large Google Doc. of,
Really?
like,
I'd like to read it.
you want to read it?
Yeah, it's probably like, don't talk to him about his parents.
All right, go ahead. See
All
if
right.
there's anything in there you want to talk about.
No, there's just like I try to like look for
No, you
random
did a
things.
good job. You did a lot of prep.
She does a lot of prep, and then like depending on the guest, I'll either go down point by point
Mhm.
trying to make conversation happen. Like if someone is just not a good conversationalist, I'll
Yeah.
have to like constantly go through it. And then sometimes I'll have someone on and I just never look at it.
I love
You're
your question.
giving it back to me.
Thank you.
Thoughts on Gen Z as a Gen X?
Well,
I
you
got-
already did
I
that.
feel like you already did that.
Yeah.
I did read the article that you wrote.
Yeah,
for
that
LA
article
Mag.
isn't the one. So I wrote a cover for Time Magazine called the Me generation.
Yeah, that was about millennials though. And
yeah,
I'm not a
that's all-
millennial, so I don't care.
It's
Oh.
on the page.
They got pissed off.
I'm
So
a
I-
millennial.
So I've written
you
things.
pissed?
No, I think it was
The
pretty
thing-
accurate.
The things I've gotten in trouble for writing were things I didn't see getting in trouble. And every time I've worried that something I wrote was going to have a big backlash, it didn't.
Yeah.
And then everyone post facto was like, well, you knew when you wrote it. Like I just heard two very smart people say like, Salman Rushdie must have known when he wrote, that would really piss off Muslim clerics.
Yeah.
And I was like, he probably didn't.
Yeah.
Like people write things all the time and the backlash is sort of random.
Yeah.
But I did not know as a member of Gen X that millennials felt about their millennialness like a true identity
Yeah.
and that they would be angry at people who said anything negative about their tribe.
Yeah.
I also didn't quite understand how connected people were to their identity groups
Yeah.
Mm.
and that being of a generation was one of them. It's also
Yeah.
like I wish I'd spent more time in the article explaining this basic fact that generations are different from each other
Yeah.
because it's very hard to see that when you're young. You're like, I'm sure everyone was like that when they were this age.
Yeah.
And generations are like, if we went to go talk to someone from, the late 18th century, we wouldn't understand their honor system. It's generations. It's not just technology, it's ideas. And
Yeah.
things just change radically.
I like to consider myself in most areas of my life a nihilist, but like a positive nihilist.
Yeah.
Like I love nihilistic positivity, where it's like,
What's an
yeah,
example of that?
like for example, when people talk about generations, because I'm known as the young guy at the office.
Okay.
How
How old is the old guy at the office?
I don't know. Rhett and Link, how old are they?
Mid.
I think they're Gen X.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
definitely
really?
Gen X.
But
Okay.
I for a long time, when I first got hired here, I was 20. And so
Wow.
I was definitely the young person, like the youngest full-time employee. I still think I am one of the youngest people here. I don't know, since a lot of people gotten hired and I don't ask people how old they are when they get hired because that's weird. But I've definitely been kind of painted as like, oh, Trevor's like the Gen Z kid in the office. And when they have questions about stupid things on the internet, it's like, oh, Trevor, what does poggers mean? And then I have to explain it, and I sound like an idiot as I explain it. Poggers is Pepe the Frog doing the pog.
What's
chant
up? Why
face.
is okay? So Pepe the Frog became the alt-right guy.
No,
He was for a while.
Pepe is not the.
He was
so many,
100%
so many
in 2016.
Millennials and Gen X people say that Pepe the
2016.
Frog is like an alt-right symbol that is
Now
so
he's not.
fake.
No, I
Pepe-
assure you, in 2016,
no, he's
I'm in
not.
I'm in a room for 3 days with Milo Yiannopoulos. All it is Pepe the Frog. For a moment during that election, he was the symbol of the alt-right, and then
No, that's
to
the
my
same people that are like the OK hand is the symbol of the alt-right. Like people doing the OK hand. Like it's just like some weird like
No,
clickbaity like witch hunt thing that
no,
people
I'm
wanted
telling
to...
you, they owned this guy. This guy was everywhere
It's
with
because the Pepe the Frog is just so big in meme culture that like
right. But so did that.
everybody's gonna use it.
But I'm telling you, they owned him, and they owned that gorilla for a minute. Harambe. They owned Harambe. They took this stuff. But then, to my shock, they lost it again. They weren't able to hold on to it. Now Pepe's back to just being everywhere.
There was actually something that we were talking about before we got on the poggers tangent.
It was you're talking about you were trying to give an example of positive nihilism.
Yeah.
Positive nihilism.
Yes.
Where was I going with that? Yes. So
That's
Is
what
that
you
it's the
are.
end of the world as we know it and I feel fine? Like what's the
it's more of the like for example, all the generations, like there are people that get like very absorbed in the identities of generations. But for me, it's like, yeah, there's really stupid things about my generation, Gen Z. There's things that suck about millennials. There's things that suck about Gen X. There's things that suck about boomers. Like every generation has some aspect of them that sucks, and is why probably there's so much like combativeness between the generations, is because we've all identified that thing about them that we don't like, and so we latch onto that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all just people like doing our best. And like just because I was born like 15 years later than someone else, is that really a reason for me to like dislike them just because of when they were born? Like,
this is positive nihilism?
yeah, it's like everybody sucks, but like
Oh,
we're
I
all
see,
just
okay.
people doing our best.
All right. Almost everyone I meet I think is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm really optimistic about people. I just think it's hard to organize in ways that
I would
improve
say
life.
I'm optimistic about people. I don't want to come across as that I think everybody's a person, because I don't, and I think a lot of people are really good. I'm more in the camp of like, I feel like there's nothing that I can do to change the way anything works.
Right. But that's also the Hannah Arendt argument, which is like the world falls apart not because bad people did things, but because good people did nothing.
Yeah. It's just hard to see what you can do sometimes. Like, it is like, what is as a 23-year-old living in California, what can I realistically do to actually like, I
don't think it takes much. I think it's the same thing like when we talk about toxic masculinity. It's just like when you're in those conversations and someone says something wrong, it's having the guts to like tell them that's not cool.
yeah,
Like I don't think
which I do.
I don't think it takes if you set the bar as heroism, like then you're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
But if you set the bar of like not accepting things you know are wrong or not just like being party to it,
Yeah.
I think that's a important.
Well, I think, and that
Stop.
was kind of like circling back. I think that was what I was trying to say in the first place, was that like, I don't feel that there's anything that I can do on a big picture scale, or
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have any power. So I'm going to do my best to just be a good person and enrich the lives of people around me and do what I can to make other people's lives better.
Yeah, but I think that's not necessarily. I think that requires, and I'm. If I go to therapy, and I'm not right now, I've been, but it's about being socially anxious in a very specific way, which
Yeah.
is being afraid of confrontation in all parts of my life.
Yeah.
So So I just have to kind of always remind myself that there's some things I shouldn't just not say anything about.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
It's hard. For me, it's really hard. For some people, I know it's not. But
yeah, my goal in my life has always just been to be as kind as possible to people and to make people feel as loved as possible. And I think that probably stems from when I first started struggling with mental illness, is like when I went through a time in my life where I felt like nobody loved me.
Yeah.
Even though that wasn't true, I had plenty of people around me that loved me and cared about me, but I felt like there was no one there and that I was completely alone. And since then, I've always wanted to do my best to just make people as happy as possible and make people feel as loved and included as possible.
Yeah, which isn't easy.
This was good. Not a lot of
people. Is this
people.
what you do on dates? Do you talk about it being good afterwards? Are you that guy?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. How was it for you? Was it good for you? It was good for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of that after a date. I always didn't like doing that after a date.
Yeah.
I felt like you just both had to say you had a good time. And then,
Yeah. You want to do it again sometime? I had a great time.
Yeah.
Next week?
No, for sure.
Same
Yeah,
time?
we'll go to Tony's. Wet Tony's.
Little Tony's. Wet Tony's. Well, everyone, thank you. This has been Joel Stein, author, funny person, a handsome-looking 51-year-old man.
Finally.
Was
that hard? It was so hard for you to say that.
It wasn't. He has this book, Man-Made. He also has another book called In Defense of Elitism. I haven't read that one, so I cannot speak to it. And I'm not going to plug anything that I haven't personally read and audited.
I've read it, so I can plug it.
Okay, yeah, you're more than welcome to in a second, once I get done plugging this. No, this is a really good book. I love it. I think it's very funny. It's very easy to read. It's very good. Yeah, it's just a really good book. You write other things. Check out Joel's things. Do you have like a publication or anything that you do, like anything personal that you do? Like what's that thing that people write they use? Stack something.
Substack. No, but Medium paid me to write a weekly column. So I've been, for the last almost year, I've been writing a weekly column for Medium.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're probably better at plugging the things that you do than I am. So tell people where they can find you and what you're working on.
Yeah, they can read my Medium column, which is kind of the column I've been writing since college. So I wrote at Time Magazine for 20 years.
Sweet.
I have these 2 books.
Twitter.com, Joel Stein.
Yeah.
I follow you. You follow me, I think.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, since we met, I really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
This has been such a fun time. This is definitely unlike any other guest I've had before.
What does that mean?
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. Why?
Just because I haven't had any time
Old people?
columnist
Oh, okay.
On the show before.
Well, I have a podcast coming out in a few
I was
weeks.
just going to,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's
I
huge.
forgot.
Yeah, talk about that.
Whatever. It comes out. Pushkin, which is a podcast company, is putting this out.
Yeah.
That's the Malcolm Gladwell podcast company. It's called Story of the Week. And all I do, it's so easy, is I find an amazing long magazine story.
Okay.
And I get the writer on, and basically we have a conversation about that story.
Okay.
Basically because I know people aren't going to read long magazine stories. So this is like a way of quickly, it's like 20 to 30 minutes, I think. We haven't cut it down yet. But it's just going to be every week. It's called Story of the Week. And it's some magazine story you probably wish you read but didn't.
Okay. Awesome. Go check out Joel's new podcast, Story of the Week.
It's going to be just like this one.
Just like this one?
Yeah.
Well, don't stop listening to this one, though, please.
It's going to be your new podcast.
Yeah,
you can listen to multiple podcasts.
You got to choose podcasts.
You don't have to choose.
There's
you can
only
listen
one.
to both.
No one has time for 2.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Everyone, that was Joel. What a lovely person. I was struggling there at the end because I don't know how to plug someone who's just a writer. Like, I don't know how to tell people, like, hey, go buy a magazine if you want. Like, mostly people are like, oh, yeah, here's my channel. Here's my social media. Here's the project that I'm working on. And he's just like, yeah, I write things for things that, I don't know. It was hard to plug him. But his books are really good. I would definitely recommend reading his books. And if you happen upon his writing, he's very funny and he's a really good writer. So give it a read if you want. But yeah, Jamie, how do you think that went?
I really enjoyed him. It was it's like it's nice to have someone on the show that's just like completely different from anyone you've ever had on. But like you guys flowed in conversation. Like I felt bad in the beginning. I kept trying to interject to be like, stop talking so we could start the show because this is good stuff. And then
yeah, no, it was fun. I was definitely nervous and anxious about it because I've always felt like pretty confident in my abilities as a host to be like, yeah, I can lead the conversation and I can push it in directions that I want it to go. But this was hard because this is the first time that I felt like, oh, he's probably a better interviewer and host than I am, because he has done it for a very long time. He's interviewed people forever. That's his job to write pieces on, and he's talked to so many people. And I was like, I feel like I'm on my heels here. Like he's gonna take over the show.
No, I mean,
I'm gonna be the interviewee.
I mean, well, he was actually asking you a good amount of questions.
Yeah, and it scared me.
Well, because he's like, but
I want to talk about myself.
But you could tell that it was like from a very he's a very curious person.
Yeah,
which I think is why he makes him such a good writer and a good interviewer. We didn't get to it; it was on the sheet, but he's had celebrities completely hang up on him.
Yeah,
in interviews.
I was reading a part of his book, and he mentioned that casually that he's just friends with Jason Bateman. And I was like, he's probably talked to so many cool people and interviewed so many cool people. Like he was just texting Jason Bateman about something.
That's
I was
dope.
Like, what the frick?
I love Jason Bateman.
I want to be friends with Jason Bateman. I'm only friends with, imagine you just interview Jason Bateman and you become friends with him. The people that I've interviewed and become friends with are like Andrew Sigils. How corny is that? That's my claim to fame, is that I'm friends with Sigils. I know he doesn't listen to the show. I'm gonna tell him about how I roasted him though.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut out that clip and send it to him.
Good, do it, please.
I really will.
It'll make his day.
I think
freaking
so.
Boomer. So everyone, there's a very special thing going on right now. It's something that we've done in the past, so you're probably familiar, but it's the Golden Tee of Mythicality giveaway. So you probably noticed this very shiny, cool shirt that I'm wearing. The microphone is hard to get it. You see the shirt. So, I'm going to have to read because there's details that I can't memorize because I'm stupid. So from Monday, 9/19 to Friday, 9/23, you can participate in the giveaway by going to mythical.com and buying this shiny t-shirt. So when you buy this, there's a chance that when you get it, it will be a different color. So the colors are aqua, rose, or the very, very big one, the golden one, which is why it's called the Golden Tee of Mythicality giveaway. So there's a chance for you to receive that shirt, and the different shirts have different prizes associated with them. So if you get the gold tee, you and a friend are going to be flown out to LA on an all expenses paid trip to our studio where you're going to come hang out with us like the Mythical crew. You're going to get a Mythical kitchen dinner that we're going to cook. It's going to be fire, flamas, heat, and there's going to be accommodations at this really nice glitzy Hollywood hotel and a bunch of other surprises and stuff. So that's what happens if you get the gold one. The Aqua Tee wins Mega Beast passes to Mythicon for you and a friend this October, including airfare and hotel. So you have a chance to win tickets to Mythicon, which is sick. And then you're also going to receive an autographed Mythicon poster, some limited edition merchandise, and more. And then there's also the Rose Tee, rose as in rose the color, and that tee wins a virtual taste test with Rhett and Link. So you're going to be on a call with Rhett and Link doing a taste test with them. So it's just really cool. There's 3 different opportunities to win, and you can enter by going to mythical.com and buying this shirt and having a chance to win this giveaway. Hold on. Check out, I'm going to read this verbatim because it sounds legal. Check out mythical.com to enter the 2022 Golden Tee of Mythicality giveaway for a chance to win one of these incredible experiences. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Visit mythical.com now for details. All the details are going to be there, probably way better than I've explained them here, but go check it out. It's really cool, very cool opportunity, fun thing that we do every year. So yeah, and it's a cool t-shirt that you get no matter what. So, I guess this is where I do the outro?
Yeah, this is
cool. Well,
the
thanks.
out part.
Okay, I'm trying to do it.
Hey Trevor.
Hey.
It's the out part.
Hey, can I just do it now?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to Trevor Talks Too Much. You can find new episodes every Tuesday wherever you get your podcasts, and new video versions of the episode that came out Tuesday the following Monday on youtube.com/Trevor Talks Too Much. You can follow me and other things on social media if you want to. And there's also a TikTok where we post clips called Mythical Pods. And it's clips of all the different podcasts, and they're cool. And thank you for listening to Trevor Talks Too Much. And thank you. and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.